Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
For 35 years, Bob Barker was the favorite host of a game show. Then, in 1994, he convened a news meeting that startled everyone. An example from the price he had been accused of something by Right. Awful. She desired to keep $8 million silent. Rather than making the payment, Bob chose to admit it. However, his admission wasn't the entire narrative. According to the woman, there was a lot more. Words like her father's room and explained the elements that formed viewers are ill. When questioned directly regarding her assertions, Bob's response shifted everything. Bob Barker was born on Dorrington, December 12, 1923. Washington is a tiny logging community that has not quite 1,000 individuals. His story was distinct. His dad was a quarter Sioux, thus Bob was 1/8 Sioux. Bob, as always, was rather proud of this. During interviews and appearances in public, he frequently spoke regarding his Native American heritage. He employed his notoriety for advocating for Native American Scousers and draw attention to their battle. When Native American identity was frequently disregarded, Bob stood erect. He accepted his ancestry and demonstrated to the world that it was something to take pride in. This bravery inspired him to disassemble and added a further layer of as one of the most well-known in America TV faces. Bob's formative years were full with difficulties. When his father passed away at work when he was 8. Mishap. Matilda, his mother, relocated them to the Indian reservation at Rosebud. In South Dakota. She developed into educator. The way of life on the reservation was distinct. Bob was encircled by Lakota customs, dialects, and tales. His mother enlisted him in pageants, school functions, at Kanatav. At an early age, he developed public speaking skills. These encounters influenced him, empathy, and stage presence, and fortitude. Bob would subsequently state that his tenure on their reservation enabled him to establish a connection with individuals from diverse backgrounds. In 1939, Bob attended an ELA at the age of 15, Springfield's Fitzgerald Concert, Missouri. His life altered that night. He met Dorothy Jo Gideon in the crowd. They clicked immediately. Both were in love. Adventure and music. Their teenage years, the romance became more intense because to high school their marriage took place in 1945. Bob was 21 years old. They were married for 36 years, until the death of Dorothy Jo in 1981. She was usually referred to be Bob's best buddy, and a sense of morality. He didn't get married again. She was the only lady. He claimed that he reiterated Bob's educational path was equally remarkable. He was an economics student at Springfield's Drury College, Missouri, but the Second World War halted his coursework. Bob joined the U.S. in 1943. Trained as a fighter pilot in the Navy, he prepared to engage in combat in the Pacific. But before he witnessed combat, the conflict ended. He learned discipline, leadership, and cooperation. Following the conflict, he went to Drury College again. He earned his Summa degree cum laude in 1947. This was no easy accomplishment, particularly after participating in the armed forces. Bob is always content to be proud of his Drury heritage. In January, Bob and Dorothy Jo tied the knot. 12, 1945. The ceremony was modest during Bob's military leave. Everything changed during the war, unsure, but they had a close relationship. They treasured their anniversary each year. Recalling their formative years, Bob frequently stated that Dorothy Jo influenced his morals and helped him in his profession. Their affection distinguished itself in the entertainment industry when long-term unions were uncommon. Bob began his career on radio. During his college years, he was employed in Springfield KTTS-FM. He was a disc news writer, announcer, and jockey. His work enabled him to pay for school and improved his ability to speak. The station turned into the location of Bob's clear, friendly voice started to win people over. Viewers. He discovered how to participate listeners precisely time his remarks and be able to think quickly. In 1950, Bob and Dorothy Jo relocated to California. That a daring move led to fresh opportunities. Bob quickly received the Bob Barker Show, his own radio program, in Burbank for 6 years. The show ran. It included cheerful banter, music, and interviews. Bob has a laid-back and enjoyable style. He gave his audience a sense of inclusion in theaters. During this time, he developed their calm that will eventually turn him into a TV personality. Next, there was a call that altered everything. December 21, 12:05 p.m. in 1956. Ralph Edwards heard the creator of Truth or Consequences Bob on the radio. He was awed that he called Bob after stopping his vehicle. Edwards gave him the position as host of the popular game show. That phone call turned Bob into a recognizable brand. It was fortunate, but also a prize for Bob's diligence and innate ability. New Year's Eve, Ralph Edwards first exposed Bob to television in 1956. Viewers, he said to the audience, "The man Weckerson, because we believe it has one of the most promising futures for television. Keep this name in mind. You will hear much about him." Edwards was correct. Bob's cozy manner and his sharp wit made him famous. Bob presented 18 episodes of Truth or Consequences. Years. The program rose to the top of the charts. Program. During the day when he was running, it was packed with tricks, stunts, and shocks. Bob was constantly improvising. His ad-lib skills made the show entertaining and vibrant. Bob Barker's arrival on the stage as The Price is Right on's host September 4, 1972. Nothing would be the same on television. Back then, soap operas dominated daytime television.com, quiz shows and operas, but charisma added new vitality that immediately captivated onlookers. Under The Price is Right turned into the North America's longest-running game show. America, it had aired over by 2,025.100 episodes. Barker remained with the show from 1972 to 2007 for 35 years. Johnny Carson's run was surpassed by that one record. On The Tonight Show, the program's renowned Come On Down, Call and Concentrate on Ordinary People transformed it into a favorite in the home. Barker's tenure as earned a spot on the television show. Made him a member of the Academy Hall of Fame. The most significant individuals in television passed in September of 1975. The show took a step that no other game show has never completed. It went on for an hour. Game shows were only 30 before that minutes. There was more to the new format. Gamers, increased rewards and fresh featuresque as the showcase competition and the major wheel. Barker's vivacious manner maintained for the entire hour. Viewers were captivated, millions watched, and ratings skyrocketed. Daily, other programs attempted to replicate the concept, but none were as successful as the cost is reasonable. An additional crucial component of Barker's beauties was his era. From these spokesmodels were used from 1972 to 2007 displayed awards and rose to fame. Themselves. Diane Pennington and Janice Pennington, for instance. Parkinson rose to fame. All around America. However, behind the scenes, not everything was as ideal as they appeared throughout the 1990s and 2000s. Some beauties voiced their concerns about harassment and unjust treatment. Holly Holstrom's lengthy Barker's court battle almost in dead knots only helped her monetarily but also made insight into the treatment of women in the sector. Their courage aided in the transformation Regnal at work and spurred early discussions that would develop into the Me Too movement. Barker's tenure on the show was more than simply games and fun. It weighs about giving as well. For more than 35 years, he distributed over $200 million in that amazing Guinness-oaked a Guinness World Record for him as television's most giving host passed. The awards included cash winnings of up to $210,000 to high-end vehicles such as an Audi R8 valued $150, $7,300. 3 warehouses were required for the performance to keep everything in storage. Additionally, over $65,000 during his time, competitors performed. Barker wasn't simply a TV giver. By way of his wife's name, the DJ&T Foundation and mother, he gave millions of dollars toted in funding spay and animal charities as well as neuter clinics. Furthermore, naturally, Barker's well-known parting remarks made a mark outside of television. Early in the 1980s, he came to an end. Every episode includes the phrase, "Help control the pet populace. Have your animals been spayed?" Neutered. That straightforward message transformed it into a national cause. He donated millions. Funding organizations such as PETA, supported clinics nationwide, and even persuaded CBS to prohibit for awards in clinics and on the show. His inspiration, such as Operation Pets in over 120,000 spays were conducted in New York. As well as neuter procedures, the work of Bob Barker television's career set records that no one else has even approached. He took home 19 daytime Emmys. Of those, 14 were for being an exceptional host of a game show. That's more than any television host past. His winning run started in when he received his first honor in 1982 because The Price is Reasonable. From there he continued to win nearly every year. After his 6th victory in 1990, he passed PETA, the former record holder. Barker continued after that. By the time of his 2007 retirement, he had won 14 Emmys for hosting. Nobody has exceeded that record. In addition to those he received for additional Emmys for executive The Price is Right's producer in 1999, he was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award. Prize. His Emmy victory demonstrated how he had a big influence on daytime TV. Not another game the host of the show has influenced American television. However, Barker wasn't tenderly in relation to rewards. In addition, he was a man of strong values. For 2 decades, he held the Miss Universe and Miss USA pageants. Pageants that it was over in 1988. Barker resigned following a heated argument about rights of animals. The pageants desired that 10 candidates will don actual fur coats. Valued at $250,000 while performing live. Barker declined, has stated, "A fur coat cannot be made," avoiding hurting any of God's beings in 1987. Following difficult discussions, instead, they utilized faux fur. However, the next year no agreement was made. Thus, Barker left a job that he had lasted for 20 years. He stood in shock. The world of television. He continued after that. He prohibited the use of fur jackets as pricey prizes. Is correct. That regulation is still in effect today. Barker's choice was made nationwide. Headlines. and influenced how individuals decide the rights of animals. Behind his Barker's self-assured television demeanor carried severe personal suffering. In 1981, his globby forever altered Dorothy Jo, his wife at the age of 57. Gideon passed away from lung cancer. Their marriage had lasted for 36 years. They were eloped high school sweethearts. When Barker was on leave from the Navy in 1945, Barker plummeted after Dorothy Jo went away. Into a severe despair, his half-brother realized how different he had changed, claiming that for 2 or 3 years, Barker plunged into his job tomanage. However, he acknowledged that he was never thazammed. He didn't get married again. He said, "She was my wife, to put it plainly. She was me life's love." In her mind, he established the DJ&T Foundation in 1995 in order to support clinics for spay and neuter. His personal life was altered by bereavement on this activist journey. 2 years later, Barker met Nancy after Dorothy Jo passed away, Burnett, at a gathering for animal adoption in 1983. Following the meeting, a 40-year friendship-filled connection, mutual respect and common causes, Nancy O's a vocal supporter of animal rights, similar to Barker. Together, they work in issues like as United Nations and Donkeyland animal rights activists. Barker made numerous proposals to Nancy. He even had a prenuptial agreement drafted in secret, but Nancy refused every time. She frequently made jokes. "I simply do not wish to get married, particularly not to you." Despite living in different houses, they shared a strong bond and a shared goal. Then a shocking scandal occurred. America from 1989 through 1991. Barker, the Price is Right's adored host, started having an affair with Diane in secret. Parkinson. She had been engaged in the show for 18 years, then Shah made almost $2,000 every week. Even Barker, after all those years, was still mourning. In 1981, his wife passed away. What began as a personal connection became a nightmare. Parkinson stated Barker compelled her to have sex by endangering her employment. This is what she said. Started towards the end of 1989. She obeyed because she was afraid. Barker thereafter said it lasted and referred to it as just sex, roughly 1.5 years. The disclosures destroyed his reputation as a daytime TV personality. Grandfather. The statements made by Parkinson were shocking. She claimed that Barker forced her to call him Daddy and would call her to his changing area, which he referred to as Daddy's room. She explained his want for oral sex between recordings, and she complied with safeguard her employment. Later, she stated that he would take a nap as if nothing had occurred. She felt like a discarded toy that was thrown away. She became ill from the stress she created also that is bleeding. In 1993, she departed from thea's play. She attributed her health issues to trauma she experienced. In 1994, things blew up. Parkinson threatened to file a lawsuit unless she received $8 million from Barker to keep quiet. Despite the enormous demand, it demonstrated how grave the charges were. Barker declined to make the payment. The narrative aided the news. Parkinson's motion wasn't solely financial. She wanted him to provide an explanation, because he did what she said. The possibility of ATV was rocked by the case. It compelled individuals to examine what transpired in further detail. Families behind the scenes of Barker's decision was startling. He called a news conference rather than paying. Meeting held on May 27, 1994. He acknowledged having an affair. He played it down. Between two people as a little hanky-panky adults. It was all consensual, he said, and that it was initiated by Parkinson. He claims that she even informed him that he was in need of some hanky-panky. He pledged that he never coerced her into doing anything. Everyone was shocked by his revelation. Yet it was a wise choice. It became weaker. Parkinson's disease. In April of 1995, a devastating card. After battling in court and for nearly a year in the media, Diane Parkinson dropped her lawsuit. Individuals were taken aback when she declared that couldn't continue. Her words were, "Bob Barker has subdued me with her beating." The physician had cautioned that the stress was ruining her health. She was fighting worsened anemia and further severe issues brought on by the mental stress. Additionally, the judge penalized her in $2,100 for her attorneys for keeping some documents secret. Even Diane, however, continued to support everything, mentioned coercion and intimidation. She was forced to leave CBS and Bob Barker were much wealthier, and judicial authority. The case was closed abruptly, demonstrating how difficult it was encouraging women to confront strong males at that moment. Dion's battle wasn't only costly. Her profession. It harmed her well-being and took away her tranquility. It was a depressing of the potential costs to speak up. Diane immediately dropped the Bob Barker voiced his opinion. He didn't. If there were any, he said, truth about the ludicrous accusations she made against me. And if there was a possibility in court she might win any amount of money, never would have thrown out the case. Barker referred to the entire situation as down. Dion only sued, he stated, because he declined to reimburse her. He disregarded her medical issues and emotional suffering as justifications. His attorney Shiglight, the fact that they had turned in 3 offers of settlement from Dion. Barker presented himself as someone who had nothing to conceal. Later on, the same another storm struck in October of 1995. Holly Holstrom, a former model for the 19 years. The price was reasonable. Dismissed. The official explanation was that she had put on 14 pounds as a result of taking medicine for a hormonal issue. They said that she no longer able to appear on TV as a swimsuit model. Holly clarified that the increase in weight was momentary. She even requested vacation time, gonna lose it over the summer vacation, and prior to filming she did shed some pounds. Began anew. It didn't matter though. She was still dismissed. Holly filed a lawsuit. She asserted due to medical issues, she was fired, discrimination based on both sex and condition, and prejudice based on age. Her case was raised. Significant queries regarding women's bodies were evaluated by television, and how health circumstance could serve as a justification for fire someone. The lawsuit took 10 years to complete, lengthy years. Ultimately, Holly was acknowledged as the victor, and Bob Barker had covered her legal bills. However, Holly stated the weight justification wasn't genuine, cause she thought it was all about retribution. In 1993, Diane Barker was sued by Parkinson for $8 million. Barker had inquired about sexual harassment. Holly to tell him a lie. He desired for her to appear on television and in interviews to support him. And disparage Diane. He even instructed her, told her memory of events Holly declined. She refused to tell lies. She thought Barker wanted her gone because of this. She said that the weight problem was a ruse. For dismissing someone who refused to support him up. Other workers who weren't supportive. Barker was also ejected. It was painted an unflattering image of a job where loyalty was more than just being truthful. The Holly and Barker's legal battle became a protracted, agonizing war. When Holly filed a claim for unfair dismissal, Barker put up a fierce fight. He even filed a lawsuit when she talked. She accused her of lying and defamation. However, he will only drop that suit 48 hours before to the trial. Holly was left stuck with hefty legal expenses. The court decided in her favor, directing Barker to pay for those expenses. He didn't stop though. His attorneys continued to file an appeal. The case lasted for almost 10 years. The objective appeared to be obvious: to put on her down, making it so costly and so stressful that she would give up. However, Holly remained persistent. In 2005, she took home a settlement of several $1 million. It was a triumph, but it came at a significant cost. Personal expense. The years of conflict had taken a significant toll. Deborah Curling spent 24 years working for The Price is Right. Years, just 4 months in October 2007. Following Bob Barker's retirement, she sent a startling legal action. Deborah stated that the show's to be a nice place to work, but after she in the wrongdoing of another woman case against Barker for termination. Following, she stated that she was demoted, forced into an antagonistic backstage position, and obliged to resign at last. She said, Barker instilled a sense of fear. Black contestants and employees were unfairly treated. If you raised your voice or complained, you can lose your job. Deborah blamed the producers and Barker of prejudice based on race, sexual mental abuse, and harassment. Due to her lengthy career and her timing lawsuit, immediately following Barker's, the public was taken aback by the case. It created a shadowy darkness over Bob Barker signed a 5-year contract, renewal of the contract in 2006. However, June 2007, more than a year later, he abruptly retired after 35 years. Barker declared formally that he wished to depart before he became elderly. However, a lot of people thought a different tale. Deborah lawsuit, only 4 months following his retirement. Some people believed the network wished Barker away prior to her charges went public. In contrast to other accusers, Deborah wouldn't sign a non-disclosure agreement. Concur. This made her assertions much more detrimental to the show's reputation. Barker disputed being evicted, but's abrupt retirement immediately following signing a new agreement, followed by the lawsuit, raised questions about whether CBS and he had been pushed aside by the producers to minimize the harm. The problems didn't stop there. When Barker departed, September 2011, Lananisha Cole, a new cast member as one of the models in 2003, sued Adam and Michael G. Richards, producers, not the comedian, Sandler. She charged a cost of sexual harassment, unjust dismissal, and even a fake definement, according to Lananisha. The issue began in December 2009. Richards ceased communicating with her and preferred a different model instead. In September 2010. According to reports, Sandler rushed into her while she was topless in the dressing room and in a bikini with sheer thongs. He shouted at regarding her lack of a microphone. She wasn't at fault for something she said. Thus, she was so humiliated that she had a bodily response and required medical assist on the set. When nobody picked her up taking grievances seriously, she quit and filed official charges. Her case demonstrated that The Price's poisonous culture is departure wasn't the end of rights. The mistreatment simply persisted under the new supervisors. Another negative aspect of various situations, employing non-disclosure renders or agreements. Numerous former models and workers who accused the display of mistreatment, prejudice, or harassment ultimately agreed to sign NDAs as part of their communities. they remained silent because of these arrangements, though the complete truth was never made public. Regarding what transpired behind the scenes, according to reports, some settlements were worth millions not for the actual claims, but to purchase quiet. Critics state that the bad behavior was allowed by the culture of concealment. Proceed. The movement to outlaw NDAs and such, the number of instances is rising. People desire more openness so that potential victims can be exposed and shielded dangerous workplaces. However, not all of Bob Barker's legacy is tainted by controversy. He was strong support for animal rights. Won more than 400 acres were one of his biggest presents. Of land in California's Moreno Valley. Heg of this property to Donkey Land, a refuge for damaged and untamed burros. Eventually, the preserve expanded to around 2,000 acres. It turned into a secure house for donkeys in the wild and millions of other tiny animals. Nancy Burnett, his partner, referred to this as his most enduring legacy. The refuge aids in the recovery of animals and go back to their flocks. Additionally, Bob provided millions to groups that support animals. The passing of Barker on August 26, 2023, at the age of 99, actually signaled the end of an period of American television. He passed away at his Los Angeles residence. His partner Nancy Burnett, his wife of 40 years, was by his side. Their relationship had begun following his Dorothy, Joe Gideon's wife, died in 1981. After that day, Nancy developed into a reliable force in his life. The reason behind Bob's death was identified as Alzheimer's. He had kept it a secret for years. Additionally, his death certificate stated hypothyroidism, hypertension, and hyperlipidemia. These demonstrated that Bob had fought in silence numerous health problems during his last years. Despite these difficulties, Bob remained adroit. Nancy revealed that he maintained striking up discussions and even performed basic activities for only 2 months prior to his death. Following his passing, Bob was buried at the Forest Lawn Monument, Hollywood Hills Park. His tomb is located next to Dorothy Joe's, demonstrating how profoundly they stayed linked. Dorothy and Bob and Joe never had children. Remarried rather. He opened his heart into the rights of animals. Nancy supported him in this as well. She assisted in overseeing his care and was a co-executive member of his. Together, they ensured that his legacy extended well beyond television. Screen. Upon his passing, admirers and co-workers were profoundly saddened. His publicist referred to him as the best MC in the world who ever existed. Bob Barker will always be like that. Recall,